On the edge of a quiet ranching valley, a young woman knelt in the dirt with a bundle of thorn saplings in her arms. She wasn't planting flowers. She wasn't planting a windbreak. She was planting thorns. Rows and rows of them, along the outer fence line where the land met the tree line. The neighbors slowed their trucks to watch. A few laughed. One asked her, half joking, if she was building a maze. She didn't explain. She just kept digging. Nobody knew it yet, but it would take 4 years, one drought, one brutal winter, and something arriving in the dark on 4 legs before anyone understood why. If you've ever done something people didn't understand, something that took years to prove you right, stay with this one. It's for you. And before we go further, hit subscribe, drop a comment telling us where in the world you're watching this from, and let us know if you've ever lived through something like this yourself. We read every single one. Her name doesn't matter as much as what she carried with her. A notebook full of her grandfather's handwriting, decades old, filled with sketches of tangled hedgerows, and notes on something called hedge laying, an old European technique where farmers weave living branches into a dense, thorned barrier instead of building a fence. She'd inherited the ranch, not the answers. Her grandfather was gone, the land was tired, and the wire fencing that had held the property together for 50 years was rusting through in places, sagging in others. Everyone told her the fix was simple: new wire, new posts, done in a weekend. Instead, she chose thorns. Hawthorn, blackthorn, slow-growing, stubborn, and, according to her grandfather's notes, nearly impossible for a predator to push through once mature. The neighbors didn't see a fence. They saw a woman wasting money and time on something ornamental, something that wouldn't hold back so much as a curious dog, let alone a coyote. She never argued with them. She just kept planting. Here's the part most stories skip, because it isn't exciting, but it's the truest part. The first hawthorn saplings went into dry, compacted soil during one of the driest seasons the valley had seen in a decade. Half of them didn't survive the first summer. She replanted. Deer found the tender new shoots before the thorns had hardened and stripped entire sections bare overnight. She replanted again. Money got tight. A thorn hedge doesn't pay for itself in year 1 or year 2. There's no harvest, no calves sold because of it. Just labor, patience, and faith in something you can't yet see working. Neighbors made jokes at the feed store. Still building your maze? She smiled, bought her supplies, and drove home. This is the stretch where most people quit. She didn't. To understand why she trusted the process, you have to understand what a living hedge actually is. Unlike wire, a properly laid thorn hedge is a wall of interwoven, growing wood. Hawthorn and blackthorn branches bent, cut partway through, and woven horizontally so they keep growing sideways instead of just up. Over years, the branches thicken and knit together into something wire can never be a barrier that heals itself, grows denser every season, and is studded from top to bottom with thorns sharp enough to draw blood through a coyote's coat. Farmers across the British Isles used this method for centuries before wire fencing existed, because a well-laid hedge doesn't just block animals, it changes their behavior. Predators are opportunists. They test the easiest path first. A hedge that hurts to push through isn't just a wall, it's a message. Go somewhere else. She wasn't planting decoration. She was rebuilding a technology her grandfather trusted more than steel. By the 4th year, the hedge had finally thickened into something real. Dense, tangled, chest-high in most places, shoulder-high in others. It still didn't look like much to a passerby. It looked like an overgrown mess of brush. Then came the winter everyone in the valley remembers. A hard freeze pushed deer and coyotes down out of the hills, hungry and bold. 2 neighboring ranchers lost calves that season. Dragged off in the dark, found the next morning by grim-faced ranchers walking their fence lines. Her cattle were closer to the tree line than anyone else's. On paper, she should have been the easiest target. One night, Her dogs wouldn't stop barking. She stepped outside into freezing air and heard it before she saw it. Coyotes, at least 3, circling just beyond the hedge line, pacing back and forth, searching for a gap that wasn't there. They tried. Fur was found caught in the thorns the next morning, torn out mid-lunge. Paw prints circled the entire perimeter, testing every foot of it. They never got through. Not one animal was lost that winter. Word travels fast in a small valley, especially when it involves something everyone had quietly mocked for 4 years. The same neighbors who'd joked at the feed store started walking over, hands in their pockets, studying the hedge like they were seeing it for the first time. Some asked how she'd done it. Others admitted they'd assumed it was a hobby, not a plan. She still didn't say much. She didn't need to. The proof was standing right there, thick, thorned, and quietly doing exactly what her grandfather's notebook said it would. What happened next is the part that turns a personal win into something bigger. The following spring, she hosted an informal walkthrough of her property. A local agricultural extension agent came out to see the hedge for himself, and it wasn't long before word reached other ranchers dealing with predator losses and failing wire fences of their own. A small workshop followed, then another. Ranchers who'd spent decades trusting only wire and electric fencing started asking about hedge laying, about hawthorn and blackthorn, about a technique most of them had never even heard of. One woman, 4 years of quiet, unglamorous work, and an old notebook full of a dead man's handwriting, and suddenly an entire valley was relearning something it had forgotten it once knew. It's tempting to say this story is about Thorn Hedges. It isn't. It's about every idea that looks foolish before it becomes necessary. The business no one believed in yet. The skill practiced alone for years before anyone noticed. The plan built quietly while everyone else was laughing. She never argued with the neighbors who doubted her. She just kept working. And when the moment finally came, in the dark, in the cold, on 4 legs, 4 years of quiet, unglamorous patience did what no argument ever could have. Sometimes the smartest thing you'll ever do is the thing everyone else calls a waste of time, until the night it isn't. If this story moved you, hit subscribe. We tell stories like this every week, real ones about the land, the people who work it, and the patience it takes to build something that lasts. And we'd love to hear from you. Tell us where in the world you're watching this from, and if you've ever been in a situation like hers, doubted, mocked, or told you were wasting your time on something that later proved everyone wrong. Tell us about it in the comments. Your story might be the one we tell next.